You're lying in bed, lights off, room quiet, but your mind? Wide awake, replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, remembering something embarrassing from 5 years ago, wondering why you still can't sleep. The harder you try to force it, the more awake you feel. And that's the frustrating part about sleep. You can't chase it, you can't demand it, you can't negotiate with it. Sleep only comes when your brain gets bored enough to let go. Not excited, not motivated, not stimulated. Bored. And tonight, instead of fighting your restless thoughts, you're going to use something surprisingly powerful. Boring psychology tricks. They're simple, they're repetitive, they're almost dull, but that's exactly why they work. Because when your brain runs out of stimulation, it quietly powers down, and by the end of this video, you'll know how to guide it there. Gently, naturally, and effortlessly. Welcome to Cognitive Crown, the channel where we uncover the fascinating side of psychology and how it affects your everyday life. In today's video, we're diving into a surprisingly effective and scientifically grounded topic: how boring psychology tricks help you fall asleep faster. If you've ever struggled with insomnia, restless nights, or just tossing and turning in bed, then this video is for you. We'll explore 7 simple but powerful tricks rooted in psychology that can calm your mind and gently guide you into sleep. Some of these methods might sound boring on the surface, but that's the secret. Boring psychology tricks work by slowing down mental stimulation, which is exactly what your brain needs before sleep. The psychology of sleep and boredom. Before we jump into the tricks, let's understand why boredom works so well for sleep. Your brain thrives on stimulation during the day, but when night falls, too much mental activity keeps you awake. Boring activities reduce what psychologists call cognitive arousal, that racing, restless feeling of too many thoughts. When your brain gets bored, it begins to shut down, lowering mental energy and nudging your body towards sleep. Think of it like a phone battery running on low power mode. It naturally conserves energy and slows down. This psychological principle is why boring tricks are not just random hacks, but scientifically aligned with how your brain transitions into rest. Trick 1. The counting method. One of the oldest and simplest psychology tricks for sleep is counting slowly. Most people know the phrase counting sheep, and while it might sound silly, it's actually backed by the science of monotony. When you count, whether it's sheep, numbers, or even ceiling tiles, you give your brain a repetitive and low-effort task. This prevents anxious or stressful thoughts from dominating your mind. The more repetitive the counting becomes, the more your brain loses interest and drifts towards sleep. The trick is to count at a slow pace, breathing deeply with each number. It's not about reaching a high number. It's about letting your mind get tired of the repetition and shutting down. Trick 2. The alphabet boring game. The next trick is to use the alphabet in the most boring way possible. Start with the letter A, and think of an extremely dull category like kitchen items or furniture. Say to yourself, A is for apron, B is for bowl, C is for chair. This simple alphabet game distracts you from stressful thoughts, but doesn't excite you enough to keep you awake. It forces your brain to focus on something bland and structured, which gradually leads to mental fatigue. Psychologists call this a cognitive distraction technique. It pulls your thoughts away from stress, but in a way that's too boring to hold attention for long. Trick 3. Slow and monotonous breathing. Breathing is not just a relaxation tool. It's a boring psychology trick when done deliberately. Most people breathe quickly and shallowly when they're anxious, which keeps the brain alert. But if you slow your breathing to a monotonous rhythm, it signals to your brain that it's time to rest. Try this. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. As you repeat this pattern, your focus narrows to the boring repetition of breathing. Soon the body relaxes, the mind slows down, and sleep becomes unavoidable. Trick 4. Imagining a dull scenario. Instead of visualizing exciting dreams, imagine the dullest possible scenario. Picture yourself sitting in a waiting room with nothing to do, or walking slowly through an empty supermarket aisle. The key is to keep the imagery repetitive, uneventful, and simple. Psychologists know that the brain struggles to stay alert when visualizing boring, low-stimulation environments. It's like watching paint dry in your imagination. The longer you stick with it, the heavier your eyelids will feel. Trick 5. Reading something extremely dull. This is one of the most powerful tricks because it combines both cognitive and physical sleep signals. Choose a book, manual, or article that is painfully boring to read. Something with no plot, no excitement, and no drama. Legal documents, instruction booklets, or old textbooks are perfect examples. When you read dull material, your eyes tire quickly, and your brain loses interest. This naturally lowers alertness and prepares you for sleep. Unlike scrolling on a phone, which stimulates the brain with bright light and novelty, boring reading lulls your mind into drowsiness. Trick 6. The repetition technique. Another boring psychology trick is simply repeating a single, meaningless phrase in your mind. For example, choose a phrase like, "I am falling asleep," or even a nonsense word. Keep repeating it slowly, again and again, until the words blur together. This method is similar to meditation, but with a deliberately boring twist. The repetition dulls mental activity and removes the space for stressful or exciting thoughts. Before long, your brain will naturally surrender to sleep just to escape the monotony. Trick 7. The mental white noise method. The final trick is to imagine mental white noise. Think about a constant, unchanging sound, like the hum of a fan or the buzz of a refrigerator. Instead of engaging your mind with new thoughts, you simply hold that boring sound in your imagination. This dull mental focus has a calming effect. Much like real white noise machines people use in bedrooms, it's psychologically boring, but in the best way possible, because it blocks intrusive thoughts and encourages the brain to relax. Why these tricks work so well? You might be wondering why boring tricks are more effective than exciting sleep hacks. The answer lies in the psychology of arousal and attention. When you focus on something stimulating, your brain produces chemicals like dopamine, which keeps you awake. But when you give your brain a task that is low reward and repetitive, it gets bored. Boredom, in this context, becomes your ally. It drains the brain of unnecessary energy, helping your natural sleep systems take over. In short, boring psychology tricks are not just random. They align perfectly with how your brain downshifts into sleep. Final thoughts and good night. We've covered 7 powerful but boring psychology tricks that can help you fall asleep faster: counting slowly, the alphabet game, monotonous breathing, imagining dull scenarios, reading boring material, repetition, and mental white noise. Each of these methods uses boredom as a tool to quiet the restless mind and trigger sleep. So the next time you're lying awake at night, instead of fighting with your thoughts, lean into the boring side of psychology. Your brain will eventually get tired, your body will follow, and you'll drift off into peaceful sleep. Thank you for watching Cognitive Crown. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a better night's sleep. Sleep well, and I'll see you in the next video.